we're still able to be friends. Crazy, right? It's baffling.
Weird concept.
Yeah, weird concept that I can be friends with somebody who has completely differing beliefs than me.
Well, and that just leads into a whole nother thing, because that's the whole, like having a conversation with Bob today. Diametrically opposed people. Like, he considers himself a moderate, and from the way he explained things today, it does sound like he feels pretty moderate. I think it's one of those... I think it's the way he talked to me today anyway, it sounds like that he knows there's a danger in going towards a system that is about total government control. And he knows there's a danger in it, which is why he's reluctant to completely say he's on board with a system like that. He wants to have, it seems like he wants to have his cake and eat it too. And that's part of the problem. He wants to go, yeah, I'm a champion for free market capitalism, but I really, really, really want a healthcare system that covers everybody in the United States. And you can't have both.
No.
You know what I mean? You can't force everybody onto a totalitarian healthcare system and then claim you're still for free market capitalism at the same time.
My thing is, I feel like there's a middle ground to be found.
Which was what I was trying to give as an option.
Which is beautiful. Like, I mean, the fact that conversation can be had. The problem is it's not being had on a bigger stage. That's the sad part. Is no one is being like, okay, guys, hold on. Like, there's no person in the Senate or whatever being like, yo, okay, guys, let's calm down and let's. You're right, but you're also right. Baffling concept, right? Y'all both have y'all's hearts in the right place, but let's find something in the middle so we can all be happy and we can go home at a decent hour and not waste everybody's tax dollars.
Right.
Like, you know, I'd love a dude in the Senate who really loves his wife and is just like, guys, I really want to get home to my family, so let's find this middle ground. I don't give a shit about beliefs anymore. I'm like, I want to go home.
Well,
know?
I think that's one of the biggest problems with our politicians nowadays is they go into the Senate and they scream about stuff on camera and they want to get recorded as documented too. So that way, because the problem is all they're ever thinking about, and I'm not saying this is all of them, because there's a lot of good politicians out there. There really are a lot of, I don't say politicians, I think politicians is really a negative word, but there's good elected leaders out there that their intent is to try to do what they think is best for the system. Okay. The problem is even those people, there's still always that little twinkle in the back of your head that goes, if I say this, it might fuck up my re-election chances, right? Which means they might be thinking of that in a good way as like, if I say something dumb now that gets me not elected, it means I won't be able to complete my long-term goals, which I think are really good for the people. Okay, so a little bit of that factors into it. I think a problem is I think there's some politicians where that has become the only factor now. So what it is they're more about getting sound bites so that way it helps them out for re-election, or they don't want to say anything or act in any way that might prevent them from getting re-elected because of their larger goals. Instead of just living in the moment and going, okay, how do we fix today's problem? They're worried about, well, what happens if I say something stupid and then my opponent gets elected instead of me because of that. Well, now, things are going to get even worse because of that, because now that person that's taken my spot isn't going to have any of my ideas, isn't going to have any of my morality, is going to end up being this horrible person, right? Yeah. And that's just a whole state of fear that's caused by the fact that we elect really shitty people into office a lot of the time.
Well, and I think a lot, like we've said it 1,000 times, so I'm not going to harp on it for very long. It's why there is a need for term limits for everybody. That's why there's a need for these.
There needs to be an end. They need to know they can't be there forever.
Yeah, well, and we need to have, I hate to say, we got to have a leash on our politicians as people. Like, we need to be like, hey, okay, guys, y'all are getting ridiculous. It's time to fucking pull this back.
Right.
All right, let's take this back a few notches. I'm tired of hearing it. I don't care anymore. You're being ridiculous. You're being ridiculous. You're being ridiculous. Let's get you out of here and let's get some reasonable people in here that can actually, like, have a conversation. Because at this point, everyone is looking at legislation being passed and everything. We're like, okay, none of this makes sense anymore. Y'all are being ridiculous at this point. We need a... I don't think anyone can be like, oh, our politicians are doing a great job. No, they're doing a terrible job. They're all doing a terrible job. It's bad. And everyone, I think, is on the same page. It's just we have an issue with communication in the country right now. It's a communication issue, and I hate to say it, but we need to stop fucking being on our phone so often. Not you, Carlos. You're good.
Sorry, just so everybody can see, Carlos is sitting on one.
But like,
he is paying attention.
He is. It's just one of those things, though, that like people in general just need to be like more aware of what's going on and actually being involved in it. But it's, I mean, it isn't easy. But like, I mean, we have people in our communities that can be doing it. We have things that we can be doing to influence politics. And I hate to say it, but this year I wish literally the entire United States would just get on the same page for like a month and be like, fuck this election.
Yeah.
Straight up. Like, no. Like, straight up, no. And the government be like, what? We had like 3 people vote. And just be like, just completely just stonewall and be like, yeah, no.
Just don't show up.
Yeah, just don't show up. Just complete, I don't want to say anarchy, but just like, fuck this.
Yeah.
We don't want either of these dudes in office, obviously. This isn't going to help the country. Let's be honest, I'm not against Trump, but the thing is too many people don't like him. And we need politicians that people can get behind. We need that era again. Like, I hate to say it, but as much as you don't like JoJo, people could get behind her. A lot of people could.
JoJo.
Joe Jorgensen.
Oh, Jorgensen.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like, liberals, Democrats, Republicans were all able to get behind her, the everyday person, which I haven't seen in a politician in a long time. Granted, she doesn't have enough traction. I think she talks too much shit to be able to get in office, which is fine. I mean, I hate to say it, but her shit talking is, like, low tier compared to Trump, let's be honest. Like, she has, like, half-assed things in comparison.
Well, you want to talk about
either of them? Because do what?
You want to talk about Joe Jorgensen? Because
I'm just saying. No, I don't want to get too deep into it. That's the thing, is I don't want to get too deep into it right now. I just am saying that the concept of a person that I can get both a liberal and a Republican, like a Democrat and a Republican behind, just the everyday person who identifies as those, is kind of cool. Like, it's rare, and I think it's interesting.
Oh, we need more politicians like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a quote from The Witcher, but was it, if I had to choose between 2 evils, I'd rather not choose at all.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a good point. It's a very good point. You know, that's a good point. And it's one of those situations. The only problem with that morality, with opting out, and that's something, if you watch the Witcher series all the way through, you'll learn that the problem with trying to opt out of any situation is that situation's eventually going to come back and bite you in the ass. Yeah. The old quote, and it's one of the Greek philosophers, I can't ever remember which one it is, but it's that old quote that says, even if you don't want to get involved in politics is still going to get involved in you. Mm-hmm. And that's something that opting out option isn't an option. And that's the problem. It would be like what Kyle was saying, it would be a great statement of force if you could get everybody to do it.
But
the
that's
problem,
not feasible.
Just like when I was in the union, being a union, right? You can negotiate anything you want into your contract. You can get literally anything you want. If I want a piece of the moon sitting on top of the freaking roof, we can go in and negotiate that, right? The problem is you lose power when you can't get everybody to agree with a single idea. Yeah. So what you'll end up happening is, unless everyone's willing to opt out, someone else is going to end up making that decision for you. If you as an individual opt out, that means I'm going to make the decision for you because I'm not going to opt out.
Yeah, because the fact of the matter is what will happen is, so say we can get all the Republicans on board, and we can even get the Democrats to say they're on board. We'll end up with Biden, or vice versa.
Well, I mean,
and the concept would be, the concept behind it would be, we don't want either of them. We need to start looking at the other parties, and parties are their quotations because technically they aren't really.
Yeah,
but
I think I don't.
It wouldn't work. The concept's cool. It's a nice thought, but it would take something more than what we have right now as a country. I think that we've weakened ourselves a little too much, and we forgot who we were. Because at one point, we told the greatest nation on earth they can go shove it where the sun don't shine, and we made our own. place,
But-
which was the best generation of people to pretty much ever live at one point.
But even then, in a situation like that, it wasn't even everyone. It was like
No.
10% of the population.
Exactly.
And that's the reason why, it's funny. The story of Babel came up when something I was reading the other day, and it was kind of like the moral. They were using it as a moral example as to why. Because when you I can't remember the moral point to it, but it was something along the lines of the reason why God split everybody apart was because when you have everybody thinking the exact now I remember it. So when you have everybody thinking the exact same and all of that, and they're all being the exact same way, then you lose track of the individual. You lose the point of the fact that in our world, the individual the individual and your personal freedom matters over everything else. So when you bring everybody together as a collective like that, you lose sight of the individual, and the individual ends up suffering for the greater good of the collective. So the story of the Tower of Babel isn't about, at least in my opinion, isn't about the fact that God was jealous of all of these humans coming together and accomplishing one goal, which I think is probably how a lot of people view it. It's the problem with everybody coming together and in a single system like that. Something always ends up happening to where one person ends up being in control and the individual ends up suffering. Even though it might be good for the collective, the individual ends up suffering, and that's something no one should abide. The individual should not have to. I think the true morality, I think the true story, the true lesson you're supposed to learn from the Tower of Babel is that when you sacrifice the individual for the greater good of the collective, you end up losing everything. So they all came together to build one solid object, and in the process of that, everything that they created, everything they intended to create, got destroyed, and they all got scattered and separated. Because it doesn't work, you lose track of the individual, and then that's the biggest, whether you want to say God or not, in my personal opinion, that's the biggest affront towards morality in general, is when you sacrifice an individual for the greater good. Because it's not your right to sacrifice me for everybody else sitting at the table. You're infringing upon my individual rights now. And when you force me into a system to where everyone has to be part of the exact same group and do the exact same thing to accomplish the exact same goal, now you're sacrificing my personal freedom. And that's not something I can ever get behind. Which is why I have an issue with forced socialized medicine. I don't have a problem with it being an option for people. I have a problem with it being forced upon everyone else, because now you're sacrificing the individual for the greater good.
Yeah, it's like the concept of, so look up Medal of Honor recipient Kyle while I'm starting this. It'll lead into this. So you watched Captain America, right? The first one? Yeah, we all did. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you know how in boot camp, air quotes, they threw the grenade and he jumps on it and everybody else runs away. The concept of that exercise in that movie.
You're talking Kyle Carpenter?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know exactly this story.
You know where I'm going with this?
No, but I know the story.
Okay. Well, that's not real. They don't teach you to jump on the grenade in actual boot camp. The military will never tell you to do that. There's a reason behind it.
That's not something they even trained.
Yeah, exactly.
He wasn't trained. They showed him doing it, but he wasn't trained to do that.
Exactly. That wasn't an exercise.
Just instinct.
That was them fucking with him. It was just that guy.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That was just his instinct to do that. It had nothing to do with being trained.
Exactly. That's where I'm going. That's where I'm going with this. Don't worry. Had they been showing people how to do that, right? Like say that was a part of training. They're trying to instill this
a really stupid part of training.
Yes, I understand. I understand the concept. Let me get to my point. Okay. So, say they were trying to instill this morality in people, right? That you should always sacrifice yourself. No one would do it. No, it just wouldn't be a thing. But they just left.
Why communism?
Well, and it's why we don't have a military that we just force people into. And as much as I think the concept of having people serve after high school so that they get some sort of morality and we don't end up with these type of people that we're dealing with, just in general, because both sides have them. It's these people that lack pure morality, like any form of morality and respect for for people. Like they lack all respect for humans. They're out for themselves. They want money. They're just trash people. But by giving them the choice, we wouldn't have Kyle Carpenter's Medal of Honor recipient during which does it say which battle he was in that he did that?
Afghanistan in 2010.
It was 2010.
Yeah, he was in Helmand province.
So
explain that a little bit better. You're saying you wouldn't have people like Kyle if you forced people into the military.
They're joking. So Kyle and his, does it say who he was with? Because I don't remember
this
off
is
the top
just
of my
the
head.
short one.
So he was on a rooftop in Afghanistan, and they were joking like they do every day because, I mean, they're in firefights constantly. I think this is a pretty high-tempo operation at the time. He was a Marine, right?
Yeah, Corporal Carpenter.
Corporal. So they were BSing on a roof. They actually were joking a few moments earlier about, like, dude, what if a grenade hopped up here? We'd be fucked, right? It was funny until it wasn't, because Kyle didn't realize that they heard a clank, and before he knew it, he doesn't remember anything after that.
Yeah.
He heard it dinging. He's like, "What the fuck was that?" It was like a rock being thrown up. Mm. So he doesn't remember anything, but he jumps on the grenade out of pure this is instinct, because he cares about the person up there more than anything else. And he wasn't. It's not like this guy was resentful. He wanted to be in the Marines. He loved what he was doing. He was a force of good. So he jumps on this grenade and it blows out underneath him. His friend takes a little bit of shrapnel. It's really BS stuff. His friend was pretty good. It blows through the ground and through the roof down. So the way the explosion goes is it blows his chest, his jaw off, essentially. It's hanging on by skin. And the entire, it just blows down. No one, he's not supposed to be alive, by the way, at all. This guy is supposed to be very, very dead. For multiple reasons. Because right after, they try to stick a morphine needle into him. It breaks. So he doesn't get his morphine. And then in the plane, they're out of morphine. No, he's out of morphine on the ground, and they try to stick a needle in him in the plane. They use their last one, it breaks. So he doesn't get any morphine. They find out later that whenever he got to the hospital, if he had any morphine in him whatsoever, he would have been dead on the operating table. Straight up. No chance of living. This guy...
Did they say why? Was he allergic to it?
No. It would have counteracted the anesthesia they needed to use to put him under. It would have fucked with it, and his heart would have gave out probably. They reattached his jaw. He looks pretty normal. I think you can probably see pictures.
Yeah, I've got pictures highlighted up of him right now.
Yeah. My concept being, really, the long and short of this, you don't get as much as I don't
get heroes by forcing people into something.
Yeah, by pushing us together like that, though, would cause us to lose sight of what we need.
Yeah.
We need the discord, but we need to find a place in between. That's the real problem going on right now, is we don't have an in between anymore. By the way, I think you would probably think that's a bit of an act of God.
Oh, I know.
That guy is
I completely. I know.
He should be very dead.
No, I completely agree that was definitely an act of God. And that's one of the other things. And this is something. I mean, this is a rabbit hole we can chase if we want. This is a rabbit something we can chase too if we want. That's one of the things. That's one of my biggest issues with people saying that God doesn't, like absolute atheists. I have the biggest issue with absolute atheists, just because of the fact that they say that, well, for one, it's egotistical. Like, it's arrogant to go, there is I am so smart that I know beyond a shadow of a doubt there is no higher being out there. Okay, well, that's arrogant to begin with. Okay, that's just an arrogant statement that just shows your own personal ignorance of the fact of how stupid you actually are.
See, the thing I think about
but let me get to this point real quick. The whole thing, but my whole point is, you can't look at a situation like that and go, oh, well, that just happened by circumstance. If you're telling me the only reason this incredible American hero is still alive because he didn't get morphine, even though typical procedure says he should have gotten morphine, and there's no reason theoretically that he should have not gotten that morphine, you cannot look me in the eye and tell me, well, that's just coincidence. Okay, there's too many coincidences in the world that are documented that you can look at and go, if X, Y, and Z did not happen, this person wouldn't be born, and he would have not have had this kind of effect on the world, or he would have not lived, and he would have not had this kind of effect on the world. And over and over and over again, that, like, love him or hate him, Justin Bieber, okay, has made huge impacts on the world. Okay, Justin Bieber has come out very, very pro-life because when he was born, if I remember correctly, he was born to like a 16-year-old mom, and she considered having an abortion. If I remember correctly, I think most of her family and friends told her to have an abortion. She chose not to. Okay, love him or hate him, Justin Bieber is only in this world and has only done the things he's done because his mother made a choice not to have an abortion. Okay, now you can leave that one up to personal choice and no major kind of cosmic entity involved in that. Personally, I don't think you can ever say that some cosmic entity wasn't involved in a situation like that, considering what kind of impact he's had in his life, on other people's lives. Same thing. If that morphine needle would not have broke, the corporal would be dead. Mm-hmm. He would have not survived to tell his story. He would have not just survived to inspire all of these other people out in the world to do great things and to be the best person that they are and inspire themselves. And anybody that says the kind of impact that person had and the kind of positive impact that person had on the rest of the world is strictly up to a chance, because he was in a situation that no matter what happened, he should have died. And the fact that he didn't, and the fact that he moved on to inspire all of these other people, tells me that somebody intervened and made it to where he got off that rooftop alive.